Before you start watching, please help the channel thrive. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment if you relate to anything or want to dive into some topics together.
I'm a lot happier now that I had found my mate. I met Isabel about a year ago, and she is now the beta female. I first saw her when she moved here from New York, and I was instantly in love with her. If Caroline was here, they would have been best friends, I know that for sure. Issa doesn't know who Caroline is and has never asked me, but I know she wants to. I don't want her to know who Caroline is, because then she'll ask where she is, and if she does, we have to answer her truthfully. Then she would want to know why she left, and why. And I know that Issa would leave me if she found out what we did to Caroline, who is my own flesh and blood. And I couldn't bear the thought of her leaving me. My mom worse than ever now. She is extremely sick, as her wolf is dying. If any werewolf's wolf die, the human part automatically dies as well, as your wolf dying is like your soul being ripped out. So, are you coming or what? Martin asked again, slightly irritated now, which annoyed me as I was a higher ranked werewolf than he was, thus he should have respected me. Although I didn't say anything, not wanting to cause a dispute. I nodded and stood up from the bed and followed him out the door. I took one last, longing look at Caroline's room, her scent completely gone now, and closed the door silently before locking it. I dropped my key in my pocket and we both made our way down to the living room where all my friends were, including Howard and Eva. Once I was down the stairs, I noticed Howard sitting on the sofa with a pregnant Eva, who had a scowl on her face while Howard had a small smile on his face, looking down at her stomach. Two totally different people. Sometimes I wonder how they ended up together. I stepped down the last step and almost immediately, small hands found their way around my waist from my left. Chuckling, I took her small hands and pulled her in front of me, then placed a small kiss on her forehead. Finally, you're here. Are you ready to go now? Can we hurry up before we miss her concert? Eva all but screamed. All the guys who were friends with us from high school nodded enthusiastically before practically running out the house to their cars. They were really excited to see some chick called Brianna, who is a pianist who recently became famous. From I've been told, her first debut came out about 3 years ago, and its ticket rose sky high in a short period of time. Tens of thousands of fans are crazy for her. It is an honor to watch her performance for just once, and all that information was engraved into my brain by my wonderful mate, who loves her nearly as much as she loves me. We followed them and went to our own cars. Yesterday was Issa's birthday, and she wanted to go to this concert more than anything. And me, well, being me, wanted to please my mate. So after spending thousands, I managed to pull some strings and get us some front row and backstage tickets. Apparently, not many people have seen this Sydney girl, but those who had say she is smoking hot. And I don't believe this to be true at all, because if she was truly that beautiful, she would be showing off her amazing face to her fans. I bet when we get there, we'll all be grossed out by her sweaty blabber and yellow teeth. I shuddered from the image and started driving the car after making sure we had everything we'd need to get in. Finally, after 5 hours of driving, we made it. Thousands of people crowded outside the arena to be checked by the security. I groaned and slipped out the car. But that changed when I saw my mate's beautiful face with excitement gleaming in her eyes and a small smile on those delicious lips of hers. I took her warm hands and the tingles spread through my body, like they did every time I touched her, and pulled her to the long queue. Soon, we were joined by the rest of the gang, and surprisingly, Eva was scowling anymore. In fact, she was silent, too silent. After what seemed like tons of security checks, we finally went to our places and waited patiently for his Brianna to come. Weirdly enough, Howard seemed very excited, unlike the first time I told him about the concert. 5 minutes later, a guy came onto the stage with a microphone in his hand saying, "Good evening, ladies and gents. The concert is about to begin. While I fully understand many of you are loyal fans to Brianna, but I would like to ask you all to remain quiet as the concert goes on. Thank you for your cooperation, and let us welcome Brianna." The crowd went silent. The guy came off the stage, and a few seconds later, a thin figure walked on. And although she was thin, she had all the perfect curves. Then a beautiful voice filled the whole arena. "Good evening, everyone." This voice sounded familiar. "I am Brianna, and I hope you enjoy my performance tonight." Then she went to the piano and sat on the bench in front of it. There was no doubt that she was beautiful. She had long, golden blonde, brownish hair and lightly tanned skin. And for some very odd reason, something about her reminded me of Caroline. She closed her eyes as she first started playing, but soon she opened her eyes again and lifted up the head. I could see her face very well. I saw those bluish silver eyes of her. I froze and my face paled. I would never forget these eyes. They were Caroline's eyes. Chapter 13. This was just a usual concert for me, but somehow I felt a bit nervous. I had the feeling that something would happen today and I didn't. What it was. It's been about 5 years now since I ran away. I was extremely glad that I did run away now, because I had more than I could have ever asked. I had true friends, my family, my babies. Although they're 4 now and hate being referred to as babies, and a home. I guess you could say life was pretty good. To be honest though, I missed him like hell. Though he treated us like that, my wolf still wanted him. Even after all the torture he'd ever put me through, he was still my mate. The one person who was meant for me, right? Sometimes I sit there and just think about him. What is he doing right now? What would our life be like if he stayed with me that day? Unfortunately, I would never know the answer to the question, but it was how my life was meant to be, and I'd learned to accept that years ago. I was pulled out my thoughts when my makeup artist started touching up my makeup, and my hairstylist started making sure not one hair was out of place. Right now, I was wearing a floor-length electric blue dress with a low black and clear rhinestones under the bust, along with peep-toe 4 inches, ivory heels with a knot on the front. My golden, blonde, brownish hair was loosely curled, parted in the middle and reached my mid-back. I was about to go on the stage any minute now, and I could definitely not mess up, not after all that practice. I worked my ass off for this and I wasn't going to mess it up, I thought with new confidence. Just then, I heard someone call my name, Caroline, or shall I say, Brianna, huh? I chuckled. So you decide to get here now? And I thought you were my best friend. Grace laughed and gently nudged me in the ribs. Sorry I'm late, but I think Henry and Mia are coming a bit later. She pretended, gagging. Henry had finally found his mate a year after I joined their pack. Mia was driving through and decided to stop at a supermarket to buy some chips, when Henry was buying some baby milk for the twins. Needless to say, she stormed out of the supermarket in tears after thinking that her mate had gotten someone else pregnant and had a kid with her. But Henry quickly chased after her and explained that the baby milk was for me. She was still reluctant to believe him, so he brought her to meet me, and after I confirmed everything, she accepted Henry with open arms. A week later, they were both full-marked and mated. A few months later, Mia finally announced that she was pregnant, and soon she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl called Kayla. She was one little angel, with her dark brown curls and Mia's light blue eyes. A year later, they finally tied the knot and got married on a beautiful beach in the Bahamas. Mia was an amazing mum and Luna. She was kind, funny, and beautiful. She was the perfect Luna, mum and mate. She was one of my best friends along with Grace, and we went on shopping sprees all the time. Speak of the devil, and both Henry and Mia appeared, looking a bit flustered with messy hair, might I add. I smirked at them both knowingly, and Mia blushed and averted her gaze to her shoes. Here they are. I bet they were at it again in the bathroom. I hope they cleaned after themselves. Imagine what would happen if someone walked in the bathroom, I said to Grace as if they weren't there. Grace pretended to be sick while Mia slapped my arm playfully. At least we're getting some, Henry retorted, looking quite smug. Actually, I get enough. At least I don't go it like rabbits, unlike you two, I exclaimed, faking a horrified expression on my face. Oh, just shut it, you two. Anyways, you look beautiful as usual, Caro. And I know you're going to be amazing on that stage, Mia said with a small smile on her face. I smiled back gratefully. Just then the host said, "Let us welcome Brianna. Go and own that stage, girl," Grace yelled, to which I laughed. A member of the crew walked along with me and counted my entrance to the stage. The hall was completely dark, apart from a few flashes from cameras. After the introduction, I started playing my very first composition. I lifted up my head and looked up at the crowd. Then, I saw him. Chris, my brother. I quickly turned away and walked to the other side of the same, trying my hardest to get the image of his shock-filled face out of my mind. I didn't get a good look at the people around him, but I did notice a beautiful girl with the dark brown hair and dark brown eyes next to him. I tried to get the image of him out of my head and continued playing. Finally, I finished my performance. I was scorching hot by the time I stepped off the stage and said goodbye to everyone and thanked them, because after all, I was successful because of them. My manager told me that Henry, Mia and Grace were in my dressing room, along with Max, the owner of my record label, and Randy's dad. Max was like a dad to me, and I loved his dearly. He had dark brown hair and brown eyes, like his son. He stood at a tall 6'2", and he had a lean but muscular body. Randy was the spitting image of Max. He was in his late 40s, but looked like he was in his mid-30s. Randy and I had become great friends since we first met. He helped me a lot. He was surprised when I told him I had twins, because he thought I was really young and didn't have a mate by my side. But there was something about him that made me trust him, so I told him my story too. He was pissed when he found out. But thankfully he calmed himself down afterwards and the studio didn't suffer too much damage. My manager led me to my dressing room to meet everyone. Also, all the backstage ticket holders were going to be coming one by one to the lounge next door to my dressing room. Once I was in the room, everyone stood up and came over to congratulate me by giving me hugs and kisses on the cheek. It was then I noticed Stella was here along with the twins. Babies. I cried when I saw them. Mama! They both screamed together, jumping off Stella's lap and running to me. I bent down to their level and hugged them tightly. Mama, you stink, Terence exclaimed, making everyone laugh. I do not, I mocked his tone. Yeah, Mama smells beautiful, Samantha said, wrapping her little arms around my neck. It's my mama, get off her, Terence said loudly, wrapping his arms around my neck. It's my mama, you get off her, Samantha shouted back. Chuckling, I picked them both up and said, I love you both equally, and you're both my babies, and come on, we have to meet Mum's fans, don't we? We're not babies, they screamed together. Laughing, I said, okay. You're not babies. You're big children now, happy? They both nodded together, making all of us laugh. After chatting with everyone for a bit longer, I realised I had to go get dressed to meet my fans. I was really excited about doing that, since I hadn't actually met any fans yet. I quickly changed into a white flowy skirt with flowers on it, and I tucked in a plain white tank top and strapped plain black belts around waist where I tucked in the tank top. I slipped on a pair of gold platform heels. My makeup artist did my hair, and my hairstylist sorted out my hair to make sure it was perfect again. I then got a drink and went to the lounge next door and waited for the people to come in. First was a group of crying teenagers who started screaming once they saw me. After meeting a whole bunch of other people and signing autographs, I was exhausted and ready to jump into my bed. But then, the door opened and smelt the most intoxicating scent ever. My mate's scent. My head snapped up and I noticed Howard, whose eyes were wide open, Eva, who looked at me with disgust, the brunette next to Chris, looking extremely happy, and Chris, who had a small smile on his face. There were other people behind them, but I didn't recognize all of them, only Martin. I then noticed that Eva had a huge stomach for someone who counted every single calorie she ate. She was obviously pregnant. Howard had an arm around her stomach protectively while he kept his eyes trained on me. What did he think, I was going to kill his child or what? Howard looked at me with narrowed eyes, and Eva merely smirked. It pained to see that he was protecting Eva from me, and I wanted to just burst into tears that moment, but I controlled myself. They all took a seat on the leather couches, and after a few awkward moments, I said, "Hi." Chris came running up to me and engulfed me into a warm hug. He hadn't even touched me in years, and now it felt amazing to have my big brother there embracing me. I missed him so much that it was unbelievable. A growl pulled me out of whatever daze I was having, and I stepped away from him. I noticed that it was the pretty brunette growling. She must be his mate, huh? I smirked at him as he grinned. Issa, This is my baby sister Caroline, and Caro, meet Isabel, my mate. Issa gave me a sheepish smile before confusion and shock masked her facial expressions. Wait, when did you have a sister? And since when is the Brianna your sister? She asked. Oh dear brother, have you not told Issa why I left? I asked in an innocent tone. No. Hugh, she answered simply. Well, I'll tell you. I'm Caroline Forrest, and I'm 20 years old, and I ran away from the pack. You want to know why? I asked. She slowly nodded, and Chris's eyes widened slightly. I grinned and replied, why doesn't my lovely brother here answer that question for you, huh? Answer me, demanded Issa. Later, baby, later. I promise, he said. I got a good look at him and noticed that he was a bit more muscular now and a little taller. But he had slight bags under his eyes and stubble on his jaw, and his eyes now looked like they were full of sorrow and regret. Caro, please come home, he begged. I shook my head, not even thinking about it at all. Please, just come home, we all need you there, he continued. I turned my back to them and said in my coldest voice, no. Why should I? After what you all did? No way. Just because I'm rich and famous now, you all want to be associated with Brianna? No, please. We love you. Mom needs you, Caroline, she hasn't got long left. He cried. I froze while my brain processed the information. I spun on my heels and faced him. What? I whispered, tears threatening to spill out my eyes. She's dying, Caro. She doesn't have long left. She just wants to see you once before she dies. Just please. Not for us, but for Mum. He broke down as tears flowed from his eyes. I noticed that some of the other guys had already left, probably feeling out of place, and so only Howard, Eva, Martin, Issa, Chris and I were in the room. Please, Caroline, for Mum. He whispered so quietly that even I barely heard it. Chapter 14. My mum was dying. I wasn't really listening to what Chris was saying anymore, but I could just hear those words being said over and over again in mind. Although she wasn't the best mum, she was still my mum. She never did stick up for me. But then again, she never really did contribute to any of the abuse. She was one of the kindest people there to me, despite the fact that I hadn't shifted yet. And honestly, I missed her a little. But that didn't mean that I was going to forget everything they put me through when I was there. I was pulled out of my thoughts when Henry knocked the door and walked in seconds after. I could tell that it was Henry, even before he entered the room, because of his scent, which I could smell even behind the door. I had a very strong sense of smell and great hearing, better than most werewolves. So it wasn't that hard to know it was Henry. Is everything okay in here, Caro? He asked me, his eyes flickering over to Howard, who was standing in front of Eva slightly, in a defensive position, while Chris had his arms wrapped protectively around Issa's waist. Yes, we were just talking, Chris replied politely. May I ask, who are you? Henry Nixon, Alpha of the Hallowed Main, he answered curtly. I am Chris Forrest, Beta of Moon Defender Pack, and this is my mate, Isabel. That is Howard Taylor, our Alpha, and his mate, Eva, Chris said. Little did he know how angry he was getting Henry with each one of his words. Henry was a kind and funny person, in general, well after he starts getting used to you. But he could be a very angry alpha if he wanted to, and trust me, nobody wants to face his wrath. Caro, are they the people that ruined your life? He asked me slowly, with so much anger in his eyes. He didn't need me to say anything, because my eyes said it all. My once bright, silver-bluish eyes were now a darker shade of grey, which held so much anger and pain. My wolf wanted nothing more than to rip Howard's arms off of Eva, but I blocked her off. Henry was always the type of person who stuck up for people he considered family, no matter what. Even if he had to sacrifice his life, he'd do it without another blink. He thought of me as his little sister, so right now, with him knowing everything about my past, saw them as threat and danger to me. What are talking about? These are the nicest people I have ever met in my whole life, Issa said, defending her pack and her mate. I snorted. Nicest people she's ever met. Chris had his head down, as if he was ashamed of what he'd done to me. Could he be regretting this? No, of course not. This was Chris, the one who made me feel worthless every single day of my life. Howard had a pained expression on his face, and his eyes showed nothing but regret and sorrow. Henry looked even madder now, if that was even possible. And as he was about to say something, the door burst open and Mia ran in, with tears in her eyes. Henry immediately ran to her side, checking for any injuries. Sobbing loudly now, Mia began. Samantha. She started coughing blood, and she fainted. Samantha, my baby. Blinking the tears away quickly, I shouted, Where's my baby? She's in your dressing room. Someone's called the ambulance, she replied. Ignoring Chris's and Howard's questions, I ran out the room to find my baby. I saw her on the floor in the dressing room, with Grace and Stella beside her, trying to talk to her, while Max was shouting at the crew to get the ambulance to get here quicker. I dropped on the floor, next to my Samantha, who was looking very pale now. I was aware that Chris, Howard, Issa and Eva were in the room, but I didn't want to think about all the questions they'd asked me, even Howard, because right now, my baby was my first priority and always will be. Terence came up to me crying with a red nose. I hugged him tightly, while checking for Samantha's pulse. Tears were flowing freely down my cheeks now, and I probably looked like a mess, but I couldn't care less right now. Her pulse was there, but it was very weak. Someone passed me a baby wipe, which I used to wipe the blood on near her mouth with. This had never happened before, so I was unsure of what was happening to her. Baby, Samantha, can you hear me?